Today's show is all about food.
My favorite subject.
But first, we're going to do a chemistry experiment.
Cooking is chemistry, just like we have to follow a set of directions to do this. Oh, that's awesome.
We have to follow a recipe to make this.
This is STEM in 30. Hi, I'm Marty.
And I'm Beth, and today we are going to be talking about the chemistry of cooking.
Chemistry can result in some pretty amazing reactions. Elephant toothpaste is one of my favorite chemical reactions. In order to reproduce a scientific experiment, you have to know exact measurements and conditions in which the experiment was first developed.
One of mine is cookies. And there are a lot of similarities between science experiments and recipes. If you want to make the same cookies your grandmother made, you need to know the exact measurements and conditions under which they were made, or they won't taste the same.
Since the museum doesn't have a kitchen, we asked DC Central Kitchen for a little bit of help.
Let's learn a little bit more about DC Central Kitchen.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mike Curtin, and I'm the CEO here at DC Central Kitchen. DC Central Kitchen is a local nonprofit that has been fighting hunger differently here in Washington, D.C. since 1989. Our mission is to use food as a tool to strengthen bodies, empower minds, and build communities. Through our work, we are able to change the lives of individuals by addressing the root causes of poverty and hunger in a variety of ways. The first way we use food to better the community is by teaching individuals who face significant barriers to employment the technical skills they need to find jobs in our city's hospitality industry. Our 12-week culinary job training program teaches participants how to work in a kitchen and allows them to earn the certifications needed to enter the workforce. DC Central Kitchen employs many of our graduates to prepare high-quality food for those who need it most. We make upwards of 10,000 fresh meals from scratch each day. Many of those meals are for the more than 19 school cafeterias in DC, getting kids the nutrition they need to succeed in school. We also provide food directly to the DC community, turning produce from local farmers and other food that might end up in landfills into delicious, nutritious meals for our neighbors who need it most. In neighborhoods that don't have supermarkets, DC Central Kitchen stocks corner stores with fresh, affordable produce and snacks through our Healthy Corners program. In 2022 alone, DC Central Kitchen provided schools, shelters, and nonprofits with over 2.7 million meals and had 63 individuals graduate from our culinary job training program. Today, we are stronger than ever and continue to make a difference in our community. So we are always looking for hunger fighters to come and join us, so I invite you and your families down here to work with us at the Michael R. Klein Center for Jobs and Justice.
We're joined by our student chefs and we're getting ready to go in the kitchen, but first, we gotta get suited up.
Remember, our kitchen is our laboratory today, and like any lab, we need to keep things clean and safe, which means we'll need to put on some special outfits. Everyone needs an apron. The thick cloth protects from the heat of the stoves and ovens and protects from splattering of boiling liquids. We also need hairnets or hats.
The first reason is to keep hair from contacting exposed food and clean and sanitized equipment. The second purpose is to keep workers' hands out of their hair, keeping their hands clean.
Okay. Yep. We are joined by Chef Anand. What will we be making today?
We're making chocolate chip cookies today.
Chef, what kind of equipment will we use to make those cookies?
So the term we use for gathering equipment is mise en place. We have our sheet pans, our parchment paper, we have our measuring spoons, our measuring cups, and all of our ingredients are put together ready to execute our chocolate chip cookies.
While we get our kitchen lab set up, let's learn a little bit more about food on the fly.
And so, because the continental chefs in United's flight kitchens from Honolulu to New York, are experts in the culinary arts rather than in words. They have set up a display as the personal expression of their mission, which is to see that all meals served on United are unsurpassed.
Eating is important. We all need to eat. But how did food make the transition from the kitchen into the air? The first recorded airline meal was served on a 1919 Handley Page transport flight from London to Paris. The cold box lunch included a sandwich and fruit and cost 3 shillings. In 1936, United Airlines installed mini kitchens, or galleys, into its fleet of airplanes to prepare simple, hot meals for passengers. Other airlines instituted their own specialty meals. In 1946, Pan American Airways developed frozen meals in partition trays that could be heated while in flight. This concept inspired the TV dinner that became popular in the 1950s. From the 1950s to the mid-1970s, meals on airlines were luxurious, featuring menus created by world-famous chefs, served on fine china with white linen napkins and tablecloths. By the 1970s, passengers wanted lower fares, and in 1977, Southwest Airlines emerged, marketing itself as the Peanut Airline, offering rock-bottom ticket prices but no perks. In other words, you can fly for peanuts, but the peanuts, well, that's your meal. Other airlines followed suit, reducing food choices on domestic flights in order to offer low-cost fares. It looks like we're ready to get started.
We're going to divide our kids up into 2 groups. Chef, what's the difference in the 2 kinds of cookies they're making?
And so our first group will have soft butter, and our second group will have melted butter.
We'll have to see what changes that makes in our final cookies. It is time to go make some cookies. Y'all ready?
Yeah!
Let's go.
All right.
While all of our friends are back behind me measuring their ingredients, let's learn how one ingredient on a salad made a big difference for an airline.
The story goes like this. In 1987, American Airlines chief Robert Crandall was taking a flight and noticed the passengers in first class were not eating the olives on their salad plate. As a cost-cutting measure, he decided to remove the olives from the salad. Presumably, no passenger would notice or care, and the airline could save thousands of dollars a year simply by removing the unwanted olives. It was said that the airline saved $40,000 a year by removing the salad olives.
Let's have some fun and run our own cost experiment for an average Boeing 737-700 series airplane and see how much money we can save. We'll start with an average priced jar of olives. This one costs $6.50. Next, we need to find out how much 1 olive costs. Before we can figure out the cost of 1 olive, we'll need to know how many olives are in a jar. Let's count the olives. 30 olives. The average jar of olives has about 30 olives.
Next, we divide the cost of the jar of olives, $6.50, by the number of olives, 30. 6.5 divided by 30 equals 0.2166, repeating. For our purposes, we'll round that up to 0.22, or 22 cents. Each olive costs 22 cents.
The average Boeing 737-700 series seats 150 passengers and has about 10 first-class seats. If every first-class passenger on that plane got an olive on their salad, that would equal $2.20 worth of olives per flight. 10 times 22 cents equals $2.20.
$2.20 doesn't sound like that much of a savings. However, a typical airline flies about 6,700 flights a day. 6,700 times $2.20 equals $14,740.
That's $14,740 a day. And if they fly that many olives every day for a year, that's $14,740 times 365 days. And that equals $5,380,100. The total savings in a year in olives would be over $5 million. That's a lot of money in olives.
What are some other cost savings you can think of? Maybe you can figure out how much those olives weigh. Less weight saves on fuel.
Bryce and Louisa, how are we doing?
Good.
Now, did you all change anything on the recipe?
Yeah, we instead of softened butter, we use melted butter.
And how do you think that's going to turn out?
We think it's gonna make it more creamy and gooey and messy.
All right, well, let's keep going.
You want me to walk back in?
Yes. Just
It smells so
How are things going over here?
Great.
Great. Did you change this recipe, Annie?
No, we stuck exactly to the book. We're using softened butter, so what the recipe says instead of their melted butter.
How do you think these will turn out?
I think that they'll taste like regular chocolate chip cookies.
Chef, we're making 2 batches of cookies here today, but DC Central Kitchen makes a lot more food every day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. We at DC Central Kitchen serve over 6,000 meals a day. And what I'm excited about is that our volunteers are back. Since the COVID ban has been lifted and we're working safely here, our volunteers are here back to help us prepare our meals. And we're excited to have them, and they're excited to be here.
Another group that makes a lot of meals that have to last a long time is NASA. NASA astronaut John Glenn was the first person to eat while in orbit, proving that swallowing and digesting food was possible in space. Meals for the early astronauts were not very appetizing, consisting of freeze-dried food and powdered beverages. But there was good reason for prepackaged freeze-dried food in space, as astronaut John Young learned when he snuck a corned beef sandwich on rye onto his Gemini mission with Gus Grissom. When Grissom took a bite, the breadcrumbs started floating all around the cabin. It's possible for those tiny crumbs to cause big problems during spaceflight. Early space flights were relatively short, so food was treated as fuel. But as we began spending more time in orbit, meals became more important, both physically and mentally. Meals on the ISS are prepared and packaged at the Space Food Systems Laboratory at Johnson Space Center in Houston. They are developed to meet the nutritional needs for long-duration spaceflight and to last up to 5 years when stored properly. But food also has positive mental benefits. Having a pizza party and eating together establishes a sense of community. And fresh fruits and vegetables keep astronauts connected to the Earth. Astronauts on the ISS receive resupply missions of fresh fruits, vegetables, and even ice cream. They have experimented growing their own food, and since the Gemini missions, NASA has solved the breadcrumb issue. There's no bread allowed on the ISS. They use tortillas.
We are about ready to bake our cookies.
Chef, what happens when we put that dough in the oven?
Oh, a lot. Chemical changes happen when we add heat to our dough. First, we're transforming one substance, our soft, squishy dough, into cookies. At 92 degrees Fahrenheit, the butter starts to melt. Causing the dough to start spreading out. As it melts, it releases water, which turns into steam, pushing that dough up. At about 144 degrees Fahrenheit, it changes its protein, mostly from eggs, making the runny egg nearly solid. giving structure to our squishy dough. At 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the water boils away, drying out our cookie, but also leaving airy pockets that make our cookies light and fluffy. Once they get above 300 degrees Fahrenheit, the proteins and sugars start to break down and rearrange themselves, giving the cookies that nice, rich brown color. Caramelization happens, giving them that delicious, sweet, nutty flavor.
Once these cookies are done, we are gonna eat them. And that is another chemical process that converts those cookies into fuel for our bodies.
But what if we want to save some of our cookies?
Well, real food rots. So we'll have to take some precautions to keep our cookies from doing so, like putting them in the fridge or freezer or container, all of which will help to slow that biological process down by keeping out the bacteria, yeast, and water. So our cookies can last for a couple of days or even 7 days.
Food that is sent to the International Space Station has to last a long time.
And astronauts that are away from home for a long time love that taste of home. And that includes some chocolate chip cookies baked on the International Space Station.
Imagine being 250 miles above your home planet, missing your family and friends, and the cozy, familiar smell of fresh cookies starts wafting through your home in space. Well, if you had been aboard the International Space Station in December 2019, you would have smelled chocolate chip cookies baking. Astronauts Luca Parmitano and Christina Cook were tasked with a very important experiment. Determine how long it takes to bake 5 chocolate chip cookies in microgravity. While this may seem like a simple job, everything done in space comes with a set of unique challenges. DoubleTree by Hilton sent up specially packaged, ready-to-cook chocolate chip cookie dough to be baked in an oven designed by Zero G Kitchens. On Earth, the hotel's signature cookies bake at 330 degrees Fahrenheit for 12 minutes. Parmitano and Cook were tasked with finding out how baking in low Earth orbit might change that. They baked the cookies for varying times at 300 and 325 degrees Fahrenheit to find the best baking time and temperature for these tasty treats. According to their tests, the best baking time for cookies in space is between an incredible 120 and 130 minutes. So how did they taste? Well, no one really knows, because the cookies needed to be tested for microbes and other possible problems back on Earth. The cookies were shuttled back to Earth for those tests. But the experts hope that experiments like this one will allow NASA to develop guidelines for baking goods on extended missions back to the moon and beyond.
DC Central Kitchen provides a lot of meals to local schools, and they give students a chance to provide feedback on which veggies they want through Fresh Feature Fridays. DC Central Kitchen helps empower children to make healthy choices through their Fresh Feature Friday taste tests. The popular bi-monthly event starts with locally sourced vegetables prepared 3 ways. The Healthy School Food Team cooks and serves up the variations for students to sample and then vote for their favorites. And the winner ends up as part of their school lunch menu.
Did you know it's not just changing ingredients that can change the taste of foods?
Changes in your body can also do that.
Have you ever had a stuffed up nose and your food doesn't taste quite right?
When astronauts are in space, they have a similar situation. We're joined by Crew 4, who have just returned from the International Space Station. Thank you so much for being with us today.
We've got a little experiment we'd like to try. Chell, you're a doctor, so we'd like you to be our guinea pig on this.
Okay.
So we've got a blindfold and some nose plugs. We're gonna have you put those on, and then we've got 3 different foods that you're gonna try, and we're gonna see if you can tell what they are.
This sounds amazing.
Okay. I trust you guys. I don't know if I trust these guys.
Ready?
It's crunchy. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, here you go.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You need a moment? Here it comes.
You did really well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us why that was so hard, and how does that relate to food on the International Space Station?
Yeah, that's really interesting. But smell has a huge effect on our sense of taste, and so when your nasal passages are blocked, that reduces the smell that's coming in as a part of your sensory network. Within our mouths, we have certain taste receptors, but the smell really just fills out taste for us. And one of the things that we experience on the space station is some nasal congestion. And because of that congestion, our sense of smell is just not as great, and so maybe that affects the flavor of food for us. Every savory food that I eat up there, I added hot sauce to. Like there was hot sauce and everything, and that replaces some of that flavor.
We have a food lab at the Johnson Space Center that formulates a good portion of our food, and we have an incredible variety of food. The food lab, though, is really focused on the nutrition and the astronaut health piece of it as well, and so they make sure that the appropriate number of nutrients are in there, but also remove some of the salt content and things out of the food that can be detrimental to us.
Food brings us together and really has a positive psychological impact on us as well. One example that is near and dear to my heart is a few weeks after we arrived on board, I actually had a birthday. And so my crewmates made an awesome space birthday cake for me with the materials that were available, the ingredients that were available, and it's absolutely delicious and something I'll always remember.
So you all have finished baking your cookies. Chef, do you want to tell us what happened here?
So the soft butter looks fluffier and lighter, and the melted butter looks crispier and a little darker.
Is this what your all's prediction was?
No, not even close.
What was your prediction?
Our prediction was they would be like gooey and easy to like divide, but they're really crisp and they're still easy to divide though.
Okay. How about you all?
We think it turned out the way we wanted it to be.
We thought they would just turn out like normal chocolate chip cookies, and that's what we have.
Well, now it's the best part of chemistry in the kitchen, is we get to try our results. Well, now comes the important piece of any lab procedure or anything that you do in the kitchen, and that's the cleanup. Y'all head back and get cleaning up. We'll take care of the cookies, though.
Well, yeah, we'll take care of the cookies.
Over here? Oh, here. Wait, that's the combo?
Today we've looked at food, the chemistry of cooking, and the importance of food on Earth, in the air, and in space.
And we've seen how DC Central Kitchen feeds a community and teaches others the skills to cook for just about any person in any situation.
Now that you know about the importance of food and community, what can you do? If you're interested in food preparation, or helping people in need, you can take a cooking class, make dinner for your family, or pack a lunch for yourself, volunteer at a food pantry or soup kitchen, sponsor a food drive for your community, host a bake sale. You can join a CSA, Plant a vegetable garden or join a community garden. Visit a farmer's market and learn where food comes from. And get to know the people who grow it. If you have any creative ideas on how you can get involved in your community, let us know down in the comments section.
That's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for watching!
Well, raw cookie dough could have an issue with salmonella, and so you want to cook your eggs to temperature so there's no salmonella issue, and then they'll be safe to eat.
You got the first one.
No, you do.
No, you do. Oh, I've got the first one. Whoops. Sorry.
Just say a lot.
Yeah.
Do you need a bigger one?
Alright, so we're going to go here.